Hey, Ashley, this is Mary Ellen. I'm not sure if I can't hear.
Hi, Mary Ellen, can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yes, I can now. Okay, perfect. Do you know if we have quorum?
Yes, let me just double check, make sure I have everyone down that is currently on. As of right now, I can see Dr. Crockett, Superintendent Hoffman, President Lee, Mr. Stratton, Mr. Mason, Vice President Close, Ms. Yanoff, and Ms. Rice. Am I missing any other board members? With that, President Lee, you do have a quorum.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, it is 9 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Let me just get my screen ready really fast. Okay, all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And with that, if we could have the roll call, please. Aaron.
Yep, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I just wanted to make sure.
President Lee. Vice President Close.
Here.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Here.
Dr. Crockett.
Present.
Mr. Mason.
Present.
Ms. Rice.
Present.
Mr. Stratton.
Present.
Mr. Swanson. Mr. Twist. Oh no, sorry. Ms. Wood.
Present.
Ms. Yanoff.
I'm here.
President Lee, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much.
And
Okay, so
President
just
Lee, if I may, I believe Mr. Swanson just signed on. So,
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
thank you.
good morning. Okay, perfect. So just a few housekeeping rules regarding virtual meetings. Board members, please stay muted. And after each agenda item, we'll go through roll call to see if any member has comments or questions if needed. And please state your name before you speak. Charters on the agenda. Please also stay muted until the item is considered. We'll ask if the charter is available, and if so, the charter can unmute themselves at that time. And the general public is viewing the meeting via a live stream or if called in via Zoom and will be muted. All right, up next, we have the superintendent's report. Superintendent Hoffman.
Sorry, President Lee, I do believe before we get to the superintendent's report, we do have election of officers.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that. I have the wrong agenda up. Yes, elections of officers. Thank you, Ashley.
With that, good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. In front of you today is the election of president and vice president. The members elected to these positions will hold the position until January 2022, when there will be a new election of officers.
Okay. And with that, do we have a motion? I guess without discussion, I think Hans has been doing an amazing job as vice president. I hope he's still interested in doing that. So if there's no other conversation needed, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that Hans Dieter Close would remain and be the vice president of the board. I think that's a good enough motion.
Yeah, this is board member Stratton. I'll second that motion.
Great. And if we could do a roll call.
Vice President Close.
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson. Mr. Swanson.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute button. Aye, and thank you for your service.
Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye, thanks, Hans.
President Lee,
Aye, and thank you so much.
and motion passes unanimously.
Great. And then we need another motion for president.
President Lee, this is Hans. I'll go ahead and make that motion to re-elect you, Mary Ellen Lee, as president.
And this is Board Member Stratton. I will second the motion.
Thank you. Aaron, if we could do a roll call.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye, thanks, Mary Ellen.
Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, now on to the important stuff. So the superintendent's report, Superintendent Hoffman, you're up.
I think that was the important stuff. So thank you. Good morning, everyone. President Lee, Vice President Close, and board members. I also want to say thank you so much to President Lee and Vice President Close for your tireless leadership of this board. I also first want to take a moment to acknowledge respectfully the geographical landscape of Maricopa County sits on the ancestral homelands of those indigenous nations that have inhabited this land for centuries, including the Pima, Lehigh, and Living peoples. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been happily visiting school campuses, including the Casa Grande Elementary School District, the Levine Elementary School District, and most recently the Academia del Pueblo Charter School right here in Phoenix to celebrate their first days of school. And as you would expect, there was a mixture of emotions in the air, from excitement for the students to see their friends and teachers for the first time in many months, or even first time in the past year, to some nervousness, especially over the current surge of the Delta variant of COVID-19. Many school leaders, principals, and teachers and students that I had a chance to speak with during these visits also expressed a mix of sentiments about the return to school. I've been so grateful to see so many of our leaders approaching this year with confidence, cautious optimism, and a reliance on evidence-driven mitigation strategies. The Arizona Department of Education remains consistent in our communication with the Arizona Department of Health Services and local county health departments so that we can continue to best support all schools as we continue to navigate the public health crisis. I would also like to share some updates on our recent federal COVID recovery relief funding allocation. So these are out of our state set-aside funds or the discretionary dollars. ADE recently announced a new partnership with Discovery Education, which is a worldwide ed tech leader whose state-of-the-art K-12 digital platform supports learning wherever it takes place. And by strategically using our federal relief and recovery dollars, teachers and students across the state will soon receive access to Discovery Education's award-winning K-12 learning platform. As students, teachers, and families begin to return to in-person learning, ADE and Discovery Education are committed to meeting students where they are to accelerate learning from the past 2 disrupted years. Once LEAs are onboarded onto the system, and it is an opt-in, teachers and students will have access to a vast collection of compelling, high-quality, standards-aligned content, ready-to-use digital lessons, and professional learning resources. LEAs have already been given instructions by ADE on how to onboard onto the Discovery Education platform and integrate it within their own unique digital learning platforms. School leaders should direct any questions they might have or any inquiries to our communications team at communications@azed.gov. Also, as a former educator in special education, I remember seeing firsthand how some of our students required intensive therapies and services in our schools to access their education. And while I'm thankful for recent investments by the state to add funding to special education programs, it has been 14 years since the legislature, 14 years since Arizona last commissioned a special education cost study. and this has left policymakers with outdated information to inform legislative decisions. ABE recently announced a $500,000 investment out of our federal COVID relief funds to conduct a new cost study, so a new special education cost study. This study will be a valuable tool needed to show the actual costs required to meet all students' needs and advocate for additional funding as needed. And last, I would like to encourage everyone eligible to get vaccinated as soon as possible. We know the vaccines are safe, free, and effective in preventing serious illness, hospitalization, and death from COVID-19. Lowering our COVID numbers statewide will help protect those who are not yet eligible for vaccination and will also help us to ensure safe and healthy in-person learning. Thank you all so much. That concludes my report.
President Lee, may I comment? Superintendent Hoffman, thank you so much for your comments on the cost study. I know that's something that we have been calling for since I ran Classrooms First with the governor. And I know we spoke about this, and I really appreciate you stepping up and doing that, because we really need to know what it costs to take care of those kiddos. So thank you so much.
My honor. Thank you. President Lee, you're muted.
All right. Board members, any other questions or comments for the superintendent? All right, thanks. It's been a Monday for me, guys, apparently. All right, so just one more thing that I forgot to announce. We are going to take a short break just to help assist board members attending virtually once all the amendment requests have been considered. So try to hang on with us, guys, until there, and we'll do a short break for everybody at that time. So, okay, moving on to the executive director's report. Ashley, you are up.
Thank you. As a legal update for Pinnacle Education Keynote, in November of 2020, the board did issue a notice of intent to revoke for that charter. The board is still waiting to receive the ALJ's recommended decision. At this time, we plan to bring the ALJ's recommended decision to the board in September for your consideration. The other legal matter for an update for you is Arizona Education Solutions, Inc. In May of 2020, the board approved the enrollment cap increase for AES in part, allowing for the charter to have the requested increase for this current school year. The charter has submitted an appeal, and a hearing has been set starting on September 14th. I will continue to keep you updated on the board, or continue to keep the board updated on this matter. With regard to staff responsibilities, staff has been very busy. We have taken the summer months to review and update our internal procedures and work on improvements to our board's processes that will be considered by the board at a later date, such as updates to the amendment request instructions. Staff is gearing up to begin conducting on-site visits for this school year. That will be for starting off with the first year for schools that are in operation. And then we plan to conduct on-site visits for charters in their second year and for interval reviews, which happen every 5 years. The legislature last legislative session did allocate $614,000 to the board for implementation of the new IT platform. Currently, board staff is working with the state procurement office and technology departments. We just completed our initial review of vendors on state contract and have determined to go out for RFP. We hope to release the RFP in the next couple of weeks to ensure implementation is as streamlined and successful as possible. The board has contracted with MSS to assist board staff with this work. MSS worked with staff to do the initial review and evaluation of our current system and put together the requirements needed for a new system, which ultimately was the basis of the board's request for additional appropriations last year. I'll continue to keep you updated on the board's implementation of its new IT platform. However, our hope is that we can begin implementation at the start of the next year in January of 2022. As promised, in April, the board voted to allow me as the executive director to approve AOIs requesting charters requesting AOI amendment requests. So I'm coming to you to bring you an update, as I did promise. Since the board's last regular meeting in May, I have approved one AOI request, and that was for Arizona Agribusiness and Equine Center Inc. Madam President, at this time, that is all I have to report.
Great, thank you so much, Ashley. Board members, are there any questions or comments for Ashley before we move on? Okay, then with that, our next item on the agenda is the call to the public. No requests to speak were submitted. One public comment was received regarding item J2, and the comment is included with the posted materials. All right, next up is the consent agenda. Board members, are there anybody that needs to pull anything off of the consent agenda for consideration? And if not, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Hans. Is there a second?
I second. This is Board Member Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. If we could do the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett, Dr. Crockett, Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Sorry, this is Dr. Crockett. Yes, aye.
Thank you. Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you, guys. Okay, moving on to charter amendments. And up first, we will take I1, Florence Crittenden Services of Arizona. And I believe, Rachel, you are going to give us an update on that.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. Florence Crittenden Services of Arizona, Inc. submitted a request for a change in ownership of the charter contract. The charter holder entity is merging with Chicanos por la Causa, Inc. As a result, the charter holder wishes to assign the charter contract of Girls Leadership Academy of Arizona, the school, to Cplc Community Schools, whose sole member is Chicanos por la Causa, Inc. Florence Crittenden has been struggling operationally and financially and has come to find itself in need of a partner organization that is capable of carrying on its programs. The partner identified by Florence Crittenden is Chicanos por la Causa. Although both entities operate charter schools, their services and impact are much broader than education, and this merger involves more than just the transition of the charter contract of the school. In the transition, the corporate board members of Cplc Community Schools will become the 4 charter principals for their charter contract, and the existing school governing body of the school will remain the same. The governing body remaining during and after the transition indicates that consistency will be maintained for students and families. However, it should be noted that board staff received information last week indicating that the chief academic officer, who serves as both school leader and charter representative, has resigned her position. Cplc Community Schools currently holds 2 charters with the board, each operating 1 school. Both schools operated by Cplc Community Schools are alternative schools. The school operated by Florence Crittenden is classified under the traditional model for state accountability. Academic performance information for all 3 schools is included in the board materials. I'm available to answer any questions should you have some.
Board members, are there any questions for Rachel? Okay. Then if not, now at this time, if the charter representative is present, if you could unmute yourself, state your name for the record and any comments you'd like to make.
Hello, I am Nathan Pullen. I am the school board president for the Girls Leadership Academy of Arizona, as well as serve on the board of Florence Crittenden.
Okay, great. Board members, are there any questions about this?
Personally.
Yes, please, Superintendent Hoffman.
Thank you. My question, so I first wanted to share, I've had the opportunity and privilege of visiting the Girls Leadership Academy, and it's really a special place. So I just wanted to check in to see if you have any updates on the transition of leadership at the school site.
Thank you for your question, Superintendent Hoffman, and it was a pleasure having you speak at our graduation the prior year. We are in the process of our final round of interviews and had some really excellent candidates, and I believe we'll be moving to make a final offer this week. So we are on track to have a new Chief Academic Officer in place in the very near future.
Thank you, that's great to hear.
President Lee, this is Carol Crockett.
Please, Dr. Crockett.
I just want to say that I'm glad that the program will continue, even though it's in a new direction, in a slightly new umbrella. It's a great program, and thank you for making sure it continues.
So I have a few questions about school leadership as well. So it sounds like it's my understanding the COO is similar to like the superintendent for, is that correct? That the COO is kind of like the acting superintendent for the school?
Essentially, so the CAO, I'm sorry if I'm okay to speak, the CAO, Chief Academic Officer, had acted previously as the principal or superintendent. We've had some structural changes due to the way that GLAS falls under Florence Crittenton. We had a previous change in CEO of Florence Crittenton around January of 2020. And that is shortly after when we entered into a master service agreement with the Cplc organization to oversee both organizations, and are now just completing this final stage of our transition process and merger process to bring Cplc under the, to bring GLAS under the Cplc charter holder.
Okay, great. And so what is your plan then for other staff? Because typically when we see mergers, like this, you retain staff for a little bit, but especially when the principal or superintendent, leaves, we see potentially higher transition in staffing. Can you talk to me a little bit about your plan for that?
Absolutely. And we have some other folks on the phone who may want to speak to that as well. But we don't expect any major changes. We met with all of the staff prior to this, but they knew the transition was coming. They're all aware of the merger process and understand that the mission of CPLC is actually really closely aligned with GLAS. We serve very similar populations of underserved and at-risk students. We have very similar philosophies, and they understand that CPLC is bringing a lot of support and resources that will actually improve the overall school operations. So they're in a better status now potentially than they had been in the past. And all of the staff are very dedicated to the girls that we serve and are excited to stay on board and continue working with them.
Good. No, that's great to hear. So you currently operate 2 alternative schools. Is that correct?
So I'm Nathan. I'm the current board president for GLAS and serve on the FlowCrit board. I don't work for CPLC. We have some other folks here who can speak to that. And yes, they do hold some other charters, or they provide other school services. They would be absorbing GLAS under that umbrella.
Okay. So talk to me about the differences, right, of having a traditional school versus then having the 2 alternative schools, and kind of what's your plan to kind of close the gap on the differences? Are you planning on them all becoming alternative schools? What's the plan for that piece?
Our plan is to keep the GLAS schooling essentially the same as it is. It's been a very good curriculum that has worked very well for our specific population. We are the only public all-girls high school in the state, being a charter, of course, but we operate with a curriculum that really suits the population that we serve, helping to catch up with college credits, as well as providing additional ongoing learning opportunities for additional credit, and a lot of opportunities to get grants and other scholarships that they may not have had access to otherwise. So we're really finely tuned to the girl population that we serve, and provide some really helpful classes that teach them life skills, financial literacy, study skills, and things to help them really become independent and able to pursue their professional or educational careers. And we intend to continue that same track.
Okay, because I guess I'm just a little, and maybe you could talk about the data a little bit. I'm just a little concerned about the data. If we're looking, the Girls Leadership Academy of Arizona, 88% of schools outperform in ELA. It looks like that the math and science data was redacted. Typically, when it's redacted that way, it's for one of 2 reasons. It's either a low N count, or it's because most of the population fell in a non-proficient category. And I'm assuming by your numbers that it's the latter, that most fell in a non-proficient category. Would that be accurate?
In some cases, yes. Part of our issue, I think, as well, as we had a pretty significant drop in enrollment this past year, and we believe that to be primarily due to COVID. And so that obviously skews the data set a little bit. We have always been a little bit towards the lower end of the performance spectrums, and that is due to the population that we serve. We have girls coming to GLAS from 33 different zip codes, and they are often starting out at a significant disadvantage, either having ELA or reading score issues or other catch-up work that needs to be done. And so there is often some very intensive catch-up work being done and one-on-one work support being done with these girls to help get them up to speed. But as a result, that tends to pull our group scores down overall until they get up into the higher grades and have a chance to excel individually and catch up for themselves.
And so what are some of the resources that you guys implement to kind of do that catch-up piece?
So I may need to let Lori, our CPLC rep, speak to some of the specifics on the curriculum part here. But what we're doing is primarily working with with the CPLC programs, and we have some additional summer school programs. We also have ongoing study sessions during each day with individual one-on time with the students to help them get caught up. She can probably speak better to detailed curriculum more so than I can.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Lori Mejia, Superintendent of CPLC Community Schools. Thank you so much for providing us with the opportunity to speak today. So as far as current intervention support at GLAS, they actually have infrastructure embedded into their school schedule with specific courses. So they have an ADVID course that all of their female youth participate in. And in that course, they're really specific with targeted interventions. In addition, they have an advisory 30-minute space within the school schedule that also allows for increased intervention supports. And then they also have a 5th period where even more intervention supports are occurring. The programs that they're using are evidence-based, approved through the state under the Continuous School Improvement grant, and they have been seeing positive successes with the use of those programs, being that they started that last semester.
Okay. Okay, so board members, I get a little nervous when we have mergers and we see data the way that it is, and then as well as some transition in leadership. That being said, I also, from what, there be alternatives. So I definitely would not feel good denying this personally. That being said, I would like to have some heightened monitoring this year, kind of treat it like a first year school. Just kind of with the transition and with the merger happening, I think that would be in the best interest of everybody and provide supports, if needed. So I don't know how everybody feels about that, but that's where I'm at.
Board President Lee, this is a board member Wood. Can I make
yeah, please.
Ask questions? Okay. First of all, thank you all for joining us today. And I wanted to build upon the questions that Board President Lee asked, because as usual, I'm very concerned about things like this as well, especially when we're looking at transitioning leadership and what that looks like. And I wanted you to kind of walk me through that process of how you are communicating with the parents about this, because the parents have to also feel comfortable. So I wanted to know what we're doing to communicate with parents. Have we received any feedback from parents in your communications, as well as the students, because this will impact them as well. So I want to make sure that there is a plan of communication in place, and what has that look like, and what will it continue to look like over the next year, so we can keep people feeling safe and supported during the transition and post-transition. Someone answer that question for me.
Sure, I can answer that. This is Nathan. We've actually been totally transparent with this process. As I mentioned, this has been ongoing since January of last year. So we're just getting to these final administrative steps of completing our merger process, but we have been open with the parents and students about the process from the beginning that we were going this route. This all started, excuse me, initially due to some financial difficulties that the Florence Crittenton organization was having due to changes in services and some other contracts that made the organization a little bit less viable financially. And so when we became aware as the FloCrit board of those situations, we began looking for alternatives to ensure that the services we provide would be able to remain available to the community. And that is how we ended up working with CPLC and developing this merger process. So we're just at the final step of that here. The approval of the charter change is actually the final step in that process. Everything else has been approved. And so this is the final component of that transition. But we have let the parents and the students know all along. We've discussed updates at our regular board meetings, and we've also had representatives available and held meetings with both staff and students and parents, and involved our PALS board, which is our parents, teacher parent board organization. So they've all been aware of the process and the direction that we're heading. And for the most part, everyone is pretty excited about it because, again, there's a lot of alignment really closely between the services that GLAS provides and what CPLC does, and a lot of overlap in those populations and specialty options that they have available to serve that population.
All right, thank you.
Board Member Lee, I have a couple questions.
Please, Member Mason.
I noticed you referenced a conflict of interest policy in both sets of bylaws, but you didn't provide a copy to the board, or at least it wasn't provided to the board members. Could you go over kind of give an overview of that policy for us?
I don't have that document in front of me. Lori, do you have that, or would you or Janice be able to speak to that?
Janice would be the one to speak to that. I do not have that copy.
Okay. Maybe I'll ask some questions that'll help, and perhaps we can circle back to that or submit it after the meeting. Just appreciate it. Obviously, conflicts of interest, the state board has an interest in conflicts of interest, and we'd like to see that kind of material. Will CPLC have any kind of contractual relationship with Girls Leadership Academy?
So the intent is that GLAS will essentially be absorbed under the CPLC school umbrella. So what we are doing, and this is actually the same as FloCrit as well. So FloCrit will remain a separate legal entity under its existing EIN. The GLAS board will also remain as is. So the GLAS school board, with myself as the current president, will remain in place and govern the school. And we will be using the resources of CPLC as the charter holder for the administrative purposes. So they will be providing back-end resources, software, human resources, IT, and that sort. So after the completion of the merger, CPLC will ultimately be the sole member of FloCrit, and they will control that board. We will have a legacy member remaining on the board, and that will be me as well. I was selected because of my affiliation with GLAS, as well as being on the FloCrit board. So I will remain as the legacy director and serve on the on the CPLC board to ensure that the mission of FloCrit and GLAS is able to continue as intended under that CPLC umbrella.
Sure, but they're two separate entities, right? So then is there a service agreement between the two? Is GLAS, paying a fee to CPLC annually? How is that being structured?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Thank you. So there is currently an MSA, a master services agreement, in place to allow for them to manage and oversee the FloCrit entities, including GLAS. The intent is for the organization to be falling under the CPLC umbrella. We are not paying them to do so. There's not a financial contract. CPLC is going to be financially responsible for it, although GLAS, as an existing entity, has some of its own resources, so those will stay with GLAS. It still has its own building. Any accumulated funds that we have will remain in place, and investments that we have will remain dedicated solely to GLAS. Any additional financial needs or support will come from CPLC. So they are taking this on to ensure that the mission continues, and they are providing financial resources to ensure that that happens.
So the services provided by CPLC to GLAS are provided for free, essentially?
Essentially, yes. So again, GLAS has some of its own resources. We certainly have received funding from the state and from the Department of Education, federal grants and the like that we have applied for and received on our own, and continue to use those for operations. If there's any shortfall or makeup need, then that would come from CPLC. So they will ensure that the organization remains financially viable using existing resources as much as possible, but they will fill in any blanks.
Okay. And is CPLC contracting or does it have any fee agreements with any other large support organizations?
Not to my knowledge, but I will let someone from CPLC speak to that specifically.
No, we don't.
So everything's really being provided in-house then?
Correct.
Yes.
Great. And I assume there's your board has a comp committee and is reviewing comp?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Board members, are there any other questions?
If I may add two things, I'm not a board member, but I will. Member Mason, the conflict of interest policy was not provided to us. Anything that a charter provides in an amendment is provided in the board materials too, unless it is something that needs to be redacted. Additionally, I will mention, I just received an email from an attorney who has been working on this. I have sent her the Zoom link, so she may be joining us in a moment if we want to put a pause here, or if we want to ask some additional questions while we're waiting to see if she joins.
No, I think most of those answers were satisfactory to my, I think we're there. Thank you.
Excellent, no problem. Also, I am making notes about some possible updates of things to ask for in this amendment.
Okay, I just have, I think, one more question. Nathan, you've mentioned a couple of times that the populations are similar between, and that's kind of why you guys feel comfortable with the merger. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but I'm just kind of looking at the populations. I mean, and one is definitely an alternative population with a higher than average special ed count, higher than average, at least at one of the schools, or close to the average EL count. It doesn't seem like that's the case at the other school. So can you tell me in what ways are the populations similar?
Sure. So I was speaking to, obviously also ours is gender specific, but the socioeconomic backgrounds of our students and those demographics tend to have a lot of overlap. Obviously, we're coming from varied areas, and we have 33 different zip codes pooling into GLAS that our students come from. But in general, they tend to be lower socioeconomic. They tend to be starting out often at a disadvantage where they may not have had the highest reading or achievement scores and need to do some catch-up work when they're first starting out with GLAS. They're also often first-time high school grads who will end up being first-time college students. And so that's where I would see a lot of the overlap in the services that we provide and the services that allow these students to both get caught up from a disadvantage that they had been at with a prior learning experience, and then ultimately get them on to graduation, in many cases to much higher levels of achievement. This past year, we had over $1 million of earned credits for college tuition, as well as another $1 million approximately in grants. So both the scholastic achievement and the opportunities that they receive are really exceptional based on being able to complete their education at GLAS.
That's incredible. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Board members, are there any other questions or comments? Okay. If not, it sounds like we don't have any questions for the attorney either, if she's she or he is popping on. But I still would recommend some heightened monitoring for this school and with the merger as to be part of the motion. But with that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I can go ahead and make a motion.
Please.
I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the charter holder status amendment request to change the ownership of the contract held by Florence Crittenton Services of Arizona, Inc. to CPLC Community Schools and direct staff to have additional
Heightened monitoring, yeah.
heightened monitoring.
Mhm.
That's my motion then.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Board Member Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. If we could have the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
And I'd like to wish you every success going forward. I feel very confident about this merger.
Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason, Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, we are going to be moving on to item I2. I am actually going to have to recuse myself. So I think they are going to throw me into a separate meeting completely and then bring me back after this, our separate breakout room, and then bring me back after the presentation. So Hans, I'm going to go ahead and hand the reins over.
All right. So who is doing the presentation? Rachel.
Yep. All right. Lead Charter Schools has submitted an amendment request to increase its enrollment cap from 900 to 1,650 beginning in fiscal year 22. The rationale for the charter holders' increase in enrollment cap is to accommodate the expansion of grades at its East Mesa campus and online academy. The charter holder does not meet the staff recommendation criteria because a leading edge Gilbert Elementary does not perform at or above the average performance of nearby schools in ELA. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Rachel? Okay, is there a charter representative here?
Good morning. Thank you, board members. My name is Lori Anderson. I'm the Executive Director for Leading Edge Academy. Thank you all for taking time today to consider our request for an enrollment cap increase for lead charter schools. As you all may be aware, the Leading Edge Academy network consists of 6 campuses, 4 of which are part of the Lead Charter Schools, Inc. Those are Leading Edge Academy Gilbert Early College, Leading Edge Academy Gilbert Elementary, Leading Edge Academy East Mesa, and Leading Edge Academy Online. Our other 2 related campuses are Leading Edge Academy Mountain View and Leading Edge Academy Maricopa. All of our campuses have traditionally been A and B rated campuses by the state of Arizona. And we are currently have an enrollment cap in our lead charter school of 900 students, which we are requesting today to be increased to 1,650. In the 2021 school year, we expanded our East Mesa campus from a K-8 to a K-12, estimating at the time that we would still be fine for operating within the 900 enrollment cap. However, we were unaware of how the COVID-19 pandemic would impact our enrollment. We saw and continue to see a steady increase in our enrollment of parents seeking options in their students' learning modality. We have offered both an in-person and a distance learning option throughout the 2021 school year for our brick and mortar schools. In addition, we were recently approached by a prep basketball program whose families either reside in Arizona or relocate here to the state. They have been working with another AOI program, and they were looking for an educational partner that could better meet the needs of their students. Our AOI program interested them because of our instructional model, where we employ the use of resource rooms that are geographically located so that students can attend daily if they choose to receive instruction and support from in-person, appropriately certified teachers. This model also allows for our support programs such as RTI and special education to use in-person instruction to meet student needs. We have created at this time 4 geographically appropriate resource rooms, each one staffed with their own teachers and paraprofessionals. The most recent resource room that we have added is located at the basketball facility. And this new partnership has resulted in approximately an additional 100 1.0 FTE students that until very recently, we didn't anticipate having. So with these unexpected changes, we are requesting an enrollment cap increase for lead charter schools to 1650 in hopes that we will not be faced with the decision in the near future to either enroll beyond the numbers with which will be funded or to waitlist students that we could be serving in our program. Our current enrollment in lead charter schools is 981. However, with our kindergartners who count as 0.5 FTE, we're still currently under the 900 enrollment cap. However, we do believe that the time will come soon that we'll be faced with the tough decision if we are unable to get the enrollment cap increase. We were notified also late last week that there is an additional basketball team that will be utilizing the basketball facility that is interested in partnering with us for the educational piece. At this time, we have not made a decision regarding entering into that partnership in lieu of waiting to hear the board's response today to our request. If we were to enter into this partnership, that would increase our students for our online campus by another 25 to 30 students. I am aware today, as I'm presenting to the board, that there may be some question about our data that leads to this presentation. And I'd like to take a moment, if I could, to address those. When you're looking at our fiscal year 2019 state assessment data, as stated previously, our Gilbert Elementary campus did not meet the metric for ELA by 9 percentage points for comparison to nearby schools in a 5-mile radius. I would like to respectfully request at this time that the board consider the data for comparison to nearby schools in a 2-mile radius, where we do meet the metric by 6 percentage points. Now, while our most current benchmark data has projected high proficiency scores, we know that benchmark data is not the most valid data. So I'm also prepared today to present our most current state assessment data as well. And if it's okay, I'd like to take a moment to share my screen with some of that data.
Please.
Thank you. It is giving me a message that I am not able to share while another is sharing. I don't know if that's going to allow me.
So I believe Aaron just stopped sharing his screen, and you should have that ability now.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. We put together a little bit of data just so that you guys would have our most current Gilbert Elementary data along with Gilbert Early College and online, which I'll scroll down in just a moment to share with you. In the column where highlighted in blue is the state average for each of the areas. The column that is not highlighted is what our campus scored, and obviously then the difference from the state average. We are honestly never satisfied. We're always looking to continue to improve and work hard toward improved proficiency and growth, but we are, given a pandemic year and the challenges that we faced last year, are proud of our scores that you can see reflected here. I'm going to scroll down a little so you can see online as well. In some places, we still have work to do, as you can see, but there are a lot of reasons for us to be proud and optimistic about the progress that we have made. Also, I just wanted to share some of the changes that we have made in the last couple of years that I think are also contribute to what you're seeing with regard to our proficiency scores. We've dedicated a lot of resources in the last couple of years to our programs. We have implemented a new online curriculum platform for our online school. We've implemented a variety of supplementary programs such as Lexia, Amira, Math Space. We purchased and have been utilizing the NWEA MAPS test as our benchmark assessment, which has provided our teachers with a great deal of instructional data. We have promoted our assistant principal at our Leading Edge Academy online. She was our assistant principal. We have now promoted her to be dedicated as a principal for that campus. Prior to that, we had a principal that was serving in a dual role. So this will allow her to have dedicated focus on our online campus. She has a strong background in curriculum assessment and data, and that's been invaluable in increasing our focus on data-driven decision-making at that campus. And as you can see from looking at our most recent state assessment data, I believe it demonstrates that we are performing above average in proficiency in most areas in our lead charter campuses. And I thank you guys again for taking time to listen to my presentation. Please let me know if there's anything you need, any additional information regarding this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Any comments? If not, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the lead charter school enrollment cap increase as set forth in the board materials.
Okay, so the motion would be to increase the enrollment cap from 900 to 1,650.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Rice. All right, roll call.
President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're up for a short break to get Mary Ellen back and to let the board members take a break.
And Hans, would
So-
you, Vice President, close it right now? It is 9:51. Would you like to come back at 9:56? Give everyone
I was gonna
that
say
5 minutes.
5 minutes, so 9:56.
Board members, as you return, if you would just turn your cameras on, that helps us know that you guys are ready to be back. Aaron, could you go ahead and do a roll call? It looks like I think everybody's back. If you could do roll call for me real quick.
Sorry, 1 second. President Lee,
Here.
Vice President Close,
Here.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Here.
Dr. Crockett,
Present.
Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason, Ms. Rice,
Present.
Mr. Stratton,
Present.
Mr. Swanson,
Here.
Ms. Wood,
Present.
Ms. Yanoff.
I'm here.
President Lee, you have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. All right. Well, we are going to move on to compliance matters, and we will start with J1A, which is Flagstaff Montessori LLC. And I believe we have a presentation by Joanna.
Yes. Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. Today, you will hear from 2 charter holders that have not met the board's operational performance standard for fiscal year 2021. If the board determines a charter holder does not meet the board's minimum operational performance expectations, it shall consider each charter holder's noncompliance and may subject the charter holder to additional charter oversight as outlined in Article 6 of our regulations, including issuing a notice of intent to revoke the charter contract. The first charter is Flagstaff Montessori LLC. The charter holder operates Montessori Charter School of Flagstaff, Switzer in Flagstaff, serving students in grades K through 8. In 2010, the charter holder was granted a renewal charter. In fiscal year 2021, the charter holder reported an average daily membership of 142.89. Board staff conducted an interval review of the school on January 28, 2021. Upon review of the documentation submitted by the charter holder, board staff identified multiple compliance issues leading to marking the charter holder's operational dashboard and requiring submissions to bring the charter holder into compliance. The issues identified deficiencies in the instructional schedules, providing the required minutes for reading and recess per state statutes, policies related to enrollment, attendance, and discipline, maintaining current facility documentation, appropriate fingerprinting, maintaining the teacher background and experience information for instructional staff, notifying the parent and guardians of the instructional staff information, open meeting law compliance, submitting required documentation to the board timely updating the charter's contract through the amendment process, and displaying the statutorily required teacher salary posting. Outside of the issues identified during the interval desk review, the charter holder was also out of compliance due to its failure to submit the fiscal year 2020 audit by the due date. As a result of the late audit, the board took action and issued a 10% withholding. The last issue was due to not timely submitting the required September quarterly financial report based on the charter holders being on probation due to its financial performance. Do you have any questions for me?
Board members, are there any questions for Joanna? Okay. If not, then is there a charter representative on the call? If so, if you could unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record, and then any statement you'd like to make.
Hi, this is Eric Alexander. I'm the charter holder. I also have Ike Ozis on the line, and Ike will be presenting our case, I suppose. Ike, are you there? Ike is our head of school.
Hello. Yes, I'm here. So yeah, thank you, board members. Thanks, Joanna and the board staff. Just wanted to add a few things to Joanna's introduction about our school. So we are one of the first charter schools in Arizona. We got our charter in 1995. And the school was previously a private school, but changed to a charter school to increase accessibility. We serve K through 8 students across 4 campuses. We're an academically successful school. Our last letter is a B. Just wanted to mention that we're also currently in the process of transitioning to a nonprofit charter school. So currently we are a for-profit charter school, but we've started our process to transition to a nonprofit organization and working with a legal, with attorney in Phoenix. So just wanted to go over some impacting factors why we are here. So one of the reasons is that our charter representative, Eric, is physically located in California. So he is not in Arizona. And communication from the charter board goes directly to the charter representative, and some communications were not received in time. All the items mentioned were corrected, but they all have the March 12th date on them because we did not receive the communication in time. The processes this year revealed some breaks in communication, and we're in the process of adding also a charter representative, myself, to prevent any future communication issues. So wanted to talk about what we will do to prevent any errors in the future. And if you have any specific questions about the items, all of the items were corrected. So I don't want to take your time going over one by one. I can, but if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So one of the things I mentioned, we will add an on-site charter representative to eliminate any miscommunication. We attended the Charter Compliance Conference hosted by Arizona Charter School Association, and we really enjoyed board members' presentations there. So we're getting some trainings to catch up on the compliance items. So through the nonprofit charter transition, we are also creating an independent school governing board, which will help the governance of our school. So that will help greatly. We also hired an experienced administrator, Nicole Burkhardt, with a lot of charter experience, who will be helping us with the compliance process as well. And we also put in some internal systems in place, implemented an internal compliance checklist, the calendar, and outlined responsible parties. So hopefully we will not miss any deadlines in the future. We are a member school to the association, and we have access to regular updates and weekly briefings. So that's kind of our presentation. A lot of the items, again, were corrected. And we are a Montessori school, so some of the things we do is a little different than other schools. So we had a really nice review and explain ourselves. And since we missed the initial report, that's why a lot of the items were marked late, mainly. So if you have any questions about the items, we'll be happy to answer. I have 2 other staff members here, team members. So Nicole Burkhardt is on the call with me. And then Bethany Bones is also here on the call. So we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great. Thank you so much. And board members, actually, before we go to questions, I believe there's a board member that needs to recuse himself, and it may have already happened, but if not, Mr. Mason, are you on here to officially recuse yourself, or did we already just pull him out into the recusal room.
I am still on, but
Okay.
I won't be commenting or voting on this matter.
Okay, perfect. So Mr. Mason will recuse himself from this matter. Okay. All right, board members, are there any questions for this charter?
Chairman Lee, this is Board Member Stratton. Not a question so much as a, well, I guess there is a question, but first a comment. Mr. Rosas, thank you for your explanation. And, you know, certainly from my perspective, I like that you are discussing, you know, how you folks plan to remedy this situation here. I'm glad to see that you're taking advantage of some of the training opportunities that are offered. I know that a lot of folks put a lot of time and effort into that peer training, and that's something that I, you know, firmly believe in and have seen work. So thank you for those efforts. Also hiring of some additional administrative staff and the conversion from the for-profit to not-for-profit status, I think will enable you guys to better address some of these situations. And I would just like to, you know, say, I, you know, would encourage you to continue the training and those opportunities that are offered out there. And I trust that you all will do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I do have a few questions for you, and you briefly mentioned some of this. I just want to make sure I'm super clear on what was said. So you did bring on a staff that is going to be dedicated to compliance. Is that correct?
Yes. So Nicole Burkhardt, who worked another charter school, so she started with us as of 2 weeks ago, and she has a lot of charter school experience. And the board staff is familiar with her. So she is very organized and hopefully will help us in the future. And me adding the charter representative, that will hopefully help with the communication issues as well. And we already signed up for the Coconino County new board member training, which will happen on August 14th for our new school members. So we are doing everything we can to get the training, but also to have the staff members with experience. But a lot of these are kind of issues that came about because of the review process. You know, if you look at the details, you know, even though, let's say, we have 4 campuses, all 4 were mentioned in the original charter documents. They were missing from the Arizona School Board ASBCS website. So we went through and corrected all the items. Yes, so the short answer is yes, we will have the additional staff to make sure that we are not in this position again.
Okay. And I do have just a question. It looks like actually board staff, could you just confirm, and I believe that it says this on the summary, all matters are brought into compliance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And Joanna, do you know, the statement was made that the reason for late submission for these items was due to them not, the charter holder being somewhere else, getting that email. Were there any that you're aware of that once the communication did, connect, make that happen? Was there still some then after that went past like a secondary deadline if we gave them one?
Yeah, some of the operational issues that were noted, some of them did miss that additional deadline that they were given of April 13th. In some cases, they were able to meet that deadline. In other cases, there were other issues that did not meet that deadline. And so I've outlined that in the report.
That's what I thought.
After that, though, there were plenty of communications, as you can see on the communication timeline, that the charter holder representative and Mr. Ozes were able to continually communicate with board staff in order to get that into compliance.
Okay.
Can I say one thing? If so, like for one of the items, for example, was the fire marshal report. This was a circumstantial due to COVID. Our last visit by Fire Marshal happened on March 2020. And then there was a follow-up visit scheduled, but then schools closed, and then the state fire marshal left and started working for the city of Flagstaff. So we didn't get a chance to connect with the, and then it took time, we were not open. So things take time with the State Department, with the fire marshal. So eventually we brought it to the compliance, but, things were delayed. Another item was the, for example, the board members. We had to align the portal with our current board members. But since we were going through the nonprofit transition, we originally thought that we would become a nonprofit organization and then update the new board members to the Arizona School Board for Charter Schools. But we were told that we had to do this, even we will have to change it in the next month. So things like that kind of took time, but we eventually did. Member campus alignment was also, we had to provide a lot of documentation, even though originally this was done, and somewhere back in the days, the disconnect happened. So we had to get documentation, submit, and things that naturally take time kind of delayed our response.
Sure.
But thanks for your understanding and support.
Sure. And yes.
If I may, I just want to make sure I clarify that Mr. Otis is correct, but that member campus issue was not marked for non-compliance.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the one obviously everything on the compliance list is important, but the one that always I pay special attention to is the fingerprint clearance cards, because we're really directly talking about student safety, and parents assume rightfully that their children, are being, taught, educated, by people who have been background checked and that we know are safe people to be around. So this one, I believe, had a delay. I'm looking on the communications page, so I don't have the summary sheet right next to me. Can you confirm, so the members that did you not have fingerprint clearance cards for certain members? What was their role, and did they continue to spend time with children once you were notified of the non-compliance?
So two staff members had fingerprint clearance card, but they did not have the IVP fingerprint clearance card, so they had the level 1. Which was missed during their paperwork. They came in with the fingerprint clearance card, and whoever processed their application did not catch that. So once we realized, we put the staff members on paid administrative leave until they get the IVP fingerprint clearance card. So that was corrected. Then that was a priority for us too, which we also found out during the review process as well.
Okay, and you now have a place and check to ensure that what's being submitted is an IVP card.
Yes. Yep. That is correct.
Okay. Okay. It's compliance is one of those things that it truly is so important to be on top of, because it can close schools down, and then you're not educating the population that you need. I'm always very excited when a charter Montessori school comes up, because as you said, you were private. It's typically a private offering. And so, when those charter Montessori options become available, it's a good thing. And, but that also means that they have to be compliant, right? Charter Montessori options. And so, board members, I don't know where you're at. My recommendation would not be to close the school, but I do believe that this many violations warrants a consent agreement. And it sounds like, Mr. Otis, that you have put the things in place, right? Whenever we see someone come before the board, we want to make sure somebody in compliance has been hired, that you've signed up for and are attending, whatever trainings of your choosing, but that you're doing that and that it's ongoing. It sounds like you've been proactive in that respect, that you have made sure that there's no more non-compliant issues. So I do appreciate your proactiveness coming before us. I think we've seen charters before not be so proactive coming before us. And so I do really appreciate that. And but I also think that due to just the number of them, that the consent agreement is the way to go. And it sounds like it shouldn't be an issue because you've put those measures in place.
Thank you.
So yeah. All right. So board members, are there any other questions or comments?
President Lee, this is Hans. I'm prepared to make a motion
Please.
for a consent agreement.
Please.
All right. I move to find that Flagstaff Montessori LLC, hereinafter referred to in this motion as the charter holder, has failed to meet the operational performance expectations set forth in the board's operational performance framework and has violated its charter contract and state and federal law. These failures and violations provide a sufficient basis to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holder's contract. However, the board is authorized to exercise its legal discretion with regard to actions taken against a charter holder that is not in compliance with its charter, other obligations to the board, and state and federal law. In an effort to bring the charter holder into compliance, the board directs staff to work with legal counsel to develop a consent agreement that addresses the charter holder's non-compliance with the board's operational performance expectations, its charter, and state and federal law. The board further directs staff to bring the consent agreement back to the board for consideration at a subsequent board meeting. If the charter holder chooses not to accept the terms of the consent agreement developed by board staff, then it is the board's decision that the charter holder be placed on a future agenda for a motion to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holder's charter or contract for the reasons already specified.
Good job, Hans. Is there a second?
This is Board Member Stratton, I'll second.
I think Miss Rice got you this time.
This is Rice.
All right. All right, Aaron, if you could do the roll call for us, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So next item agenda, we have J1B, which is Tucson International Academy. And Joanna, I believe you are still up. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Tucson International Academy Incorporated operates 4 schools, each one serving grades K through 12 in Tucson. In 2016, the charter holder was granted a renewal charter. For fiscal year 2021, the charter holder had a total average daily membership of 495.367. Board staff conducted an interval review of all 4 schools on March 11, 2021. Upon review of the documentation submitted by the charter holder, board staff identified multiple compliance issues leading to marking the charter holder's operational dashboard and requiring submissions to bring the charter holder into compliance. The issues found during the interval review identified deficiencies in maintaining the mission statement and school name in alignment with the charter contract, policies related to enrollment, appropriate fingerprinting for vendors and instructional staff, and displaying the statutorily required teacher salary posting. Outside of the issues identified during the interval desk review, the charter holder was also out of compliance due to findings from the Arizona Department of Education Health and Nutrition Services Division and failure to timely submit the annual Education Service Provider Declaration form required by board rule. Do you have any questions for me?
Board members, are there any questions for Joanna before we get the charter on? Okay, then if not, is there a charter representative from Tucson International Academy? If so, if you could unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record and any statement you'd like to make.
Okay, hi, my name is Jennifer Herrera. I'm from Tucson International Academy. I'm the charter holder and I am the executive director and the superintendent of our schools. We have 4 schools, K-12, and we are 100% National School Lunch qualified for every student at all 4 campuses. And we are a college preparatory institution. We have we are owning our findings, and we were able to fix each of those findings within 24 hours, I believe, of the visit. And we have implemented some new policies and procedures, as well as hired a compliance officer to review monthly with us that we are in compliance in all areas.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't know if I'm getting feedback or if that's just you or if that's just me hearing that. I think it's better now. Okay. So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I heard feedback. Oh, the vendor. I was looking at the fingerprint clearance cards, and it looks like to get into compliance, you guys essentially ended your partnership with the vendor. Can you talk to me about that? What was the vendor? Like, is it a service that the students lost? Like, what, can you expound on that a little bit?
It's cleaning, the cleaning service. Yeah.
Okay. And so did you just switch cleaning? You just got a different cleaning service?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of hard to keep. We had a lot of turnover there for a little while.
Sure.
But yeah, in that mix, but we were able to quickly, the ones we ended up with are all 100% fingerprint clearance.
Okay, that's great. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Okay. With that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans.
Go for it.
I move to find that Tucson International Academy Incorporated, hereinafter referred to in this motion as the charter holder, has failed to meet the operational performance expectations set forth in the board's operational performance framework and has violated its charter contract and state and federal law. These failures and violations provide a sufficient basis to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holder's contract. However, the board is authorized to exercise its legal discretion with regard to actions taken against a charter holder that is not in compliance with the charter, other obligations to the board and state and federal law. In an effort to bring the charter holder into compliance, the board directs staff to work with legal counsel to develop a consent agreement that addresses the charter holder's non-compliance with the board's operational performance expectations, its charter and state and federal law. The board further directs staff to bring the consent agreement back to the board for consideration at a subsequent board meeting. If the charter holder chooses not to accept the terms of the consent agreement developed by board staff, then it is the board's decision that the charter holder be placed on a future agenda for a motion to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holder's charter contract for the reasons already specified.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. Member Janelle Wood, I second.
Okay, I think that was Member Rice first, but thank you so much for the second. And Aaron, if you could do the roll call, please.
So Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Mrs. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you so much for being here. Okay, we are still in compliance matters, but in two, and a second, please. Okay, and it looks like Andrea is going to give us a summary on this one.
Yes. Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board. Charter holders are required to annually submit either a financial statement audit or single audit to the board. In consideration of COVID-19's impact on school operations, the board voted in August 2020 to extend the fiscal year 2020 financial audit submission deadline from November 15th, 2020 to December 11th, 2020. For Akmil O Anthem Pipash Charter School Inc. Entity ID 5978 and Entity ID 78966, board staff issued a single audit extension of the fiscal year 2020 audit submission deadline. In granting the extensions, board staff advised the two charters that if it subsequently determined that they are not subject to a single audit, the extensions would not apply and the charters would be required to submit financial statement audits by December 11th of 2020. In March 2021, ADE Grants Management notified charter holders and school districts that received COVID-19 funding that submission of the fiscal year 2020 single audits had been extended 3 months.
This extended the submission deadline for both charter single audits from March 31st to June 30th. On June 30th, 2021, both charters submitted financial statement audits to the board instead of single audits. As a result, the fiscal year 2020 audits were submitted approximately 6.5 months after the applicable deadline of December 11th. Subsequent to the audit submission, board staff obtained information from the charter holders audit firm identifying the total federal expenditures for the two charter contracts as approximately $336,000. Based on federal requirements, the threshold for a single audit is $750,000 or more in federal expenditures. Prior to today's meeting, the charter representative for both charters submitted a letter to the board. This letter was included with the public comments posted for today's meeting. Today, the board may find there is a basis for issuing a notice of intent to revoke each charter contract, but direct staff to develop consent agreements. Or the board may vote to issue a notice of intent to revoke both charter contracts. I'm available for questions, and charter officials are also available.
Board members, are there any questions for Andrea before we invite the charter on? Okay, if not, then is there a representative from the charter? And if there is, if you could unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record and any statement you'd like to make.
Madam President, members of the board and the guests, good morning. My name is Jagdish Sharma, principal here at both charter schools. This is a hybrid school. It's a bureau funded school, BIE school, as well as the two charters, K2 and 3.5. I have with me Mr. Joel Bryce from the Consilium Financial Group, our consulting firm that have been working with our school from last 10 years. And he would like to share his thoughts as to how it happened. Mr. Joel Bryce, if that's okay.
I am so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you guys. There's just a little bit of feedback. Do you guys happen to have two sessions on at the same time? Like maybe two computers at your—
Yeah, we were having
if you could just
issues.
Yeah, okay. If there's a way to mute one of them, that would be awesome. If not, we'll keep moving forward because we can hear you. It's just really echoey.
I hope, Madam President, are you still hearing the echo?
Yeah.
Can we turn it off? I'm not sure why it's happening.
That's okay. We can keep going. It's fine. We can hear you. So just know if we ask you to repeat yourself that it's because of that. So, but we can hear you. So.
Joe.
Good morning, President Lee and members of the board. My name is Joel Bryce. I'm the managing member of Consilium School Finance Group. We assist the school with accounting and back office services, as well as their financial planning and management. The school, for the 9 years preceding this situation, did file a single audit correctly and timely. This was the result of movement of students from the charter schools enrollment into the BIE schools enrollment ahead of schedule, and frankly highlighted a deficiency in our procedures for planning for the audits for the charter schools. It caught us a little bit off guard. It was an oversight on our part.
Thank you for that. Board members, are there any questions? Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions either. And just so we're clear, when you say it's a hybrid school, what's happening is the majority of the students are transferring to the BIE school. Is that correct? Is that why there's such a drop in enrollment?
That's correct.
Okay. And is there a reason why all of the students just haven't transferred over to the BIE school? So that way you don't have to worry about two sets of compliance, two sets of rules, those types of things.
Yes, Madam President, if I may also speak. So only those students who qualify for the Bureau funded ISEP funds, they have been transferred over. The other reason why this happened was the BIE approved our new school construction project back in 2018. And when we requested that they were planning to build only for K2 school campus. And third, fourth, fifth were our charter grades. And they said, well, we cannot be building a school for the grades that are not approved by the Bureau. We put a request, we worked so hard with the, the Bureau officials. So the plan that we were shared, it was like they're going to start approving the one grade in 1 year. But what happened, they approved all grades in one shot. And that's where this situation, happened.
Okay. Sure. No, thank you for that. Okay. Board members, are there any other questions? Okay. If not, then is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Please.
I move to find Akna Autumn Pipash Charter School, Inc., entity ID 5978 and entity ID 78966. Not on mute. Here and after referred to in this motion as the charter holders have failed to timely submit their fiscal year 2020 audits and therefore have violated their charter contract and state law. These failures and violations provide a sufficient basis to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holders' charter of contracts. However, the board is authorized to exercise its legal discretion with regard to actions taken against a charter holder that is not in compliance with its charter or other obligations to the board and state and federal law. In an effort to bring the charter holders into compliance, the board directs staff to work with legal counsel to develop consent agreements that address the charter holders' non-compliance with the board's audit submission requirements, their charter contracts, and state law. The board further directs staff to bring the consent agreements back to the board for consideration at a subsequent board meeting. If by September 1st, 2021, the charter holders choose not to accept the terms of the consent agreements developed by board staff, then it is the board's decision that the charter holders be placed on the September agenda for a motion to issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter holders' charter contracts for the reasons already specified.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Rice. Aaron, with the roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you guys for being here. Okay. All right. We are going to go ahead and move on to agenda item K, rulemaking. And we have a presentation by Andrea.
At its April meeting, the board approved financial probation risk levels and new criteria for determining which charters do not meet the board's financial performance expectations. The board also directed staff to proceed with rulemaking. The proposed rulemaking package being considered today implements the risk levels and criteria approved in April, modifies certain financial framework submission and other requirements, and establishes a timeframe for charter school governing bodies to publicly accept their audit reports by roll call vote. The timeframe rule is being added to implement a new law passed during the 2021 legislative session. Today, staff is seeking board approval to finalize the proposed rules found in the Notice of Final Exempt rulemaking included with the meeting materials. Should the board approve the rules today, the Notice of Final Exempt rulemaking will be filed with the Secretary of State's Office for publication. During the first opportunity for public comment, which closed on July 20th, the board did not receive any public comment on the proposed rules. Today's meeting provides the second opportunity for public comment required under the board's procedures. Item 10 of the notice's preamble identifies changes that were made between the proposed rules released for public comment on June 30th and the proposed rules included with the materials for today's meeting. Generally, these changes were made to align with statutory or other rule requirements or were technical or clarifying in nature. I am available for questions.
All right, board members, any questions for Andrea? Okay. Andrea, thank you guys so much for working on this. I'm excited about the changes. I think it's going to be great for charters and really kind of help clarify and streamline things. So really appreciate all of your guys' just hard work on this. And I apologize. Is there a motion for this to kind of go on to the next step?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hans, do you have a motion?
Yep, I'm ready.
Good, go for it.
I move to approve the notice of final exempt rulemaking found in the board materials and presented today and direct staff to update paragraph 11 of the rulemaking notices preamble to reflect today's second opportunity for public comment, and to file the notice of final exempt rulemaking with the Secretary of State's office for publication. To ensure its timely publication, the board authorizes staff to make any technical or formatting changes to the rulemaking notice as required by the Secretary of State's office. I further move to direct staff to make necessary changes to other relevant documents, including the rubric for reviewing the initial financial response and the financial eligibility criteria to reflect the board's action at this meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Stratton. With that, Aaron, if you could take the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Andrea, don't go anywhere because you're up next. We are on agenda item L, operational framework and audit matrix.
To ensure consistency across all board processes and continued improved performance of the board's portfolio, staff is recommending changes to the board's operational performance framework and audit and compliance questionnaire follow-up matrix. The recommended changes include no longer removing a first-time audit corrective action plan or CAP from the operational dashboard upon the CAP's completion, modifying the circumstances under which a CAP is required for open meeting law noncompliance, recording certain findings on the operational dashboard the first time they are identified in the audit, and recording findings not requiring a CAP on the dashboard when they are identified in 2 consecutive audits, and requiring a charter holder to submit a CAP for certain types of findings identified in 3 consecutive audits. These changes would be implemented with the fiscal year 2022 audits. Under the recommended changes, an audit finding would be recorded on only 1 operational dashboard measure beginning with the fiscal year 2021 audits, which will be reviewed this fiscal year. During the first opportunity for public comment, which closed on June 23rd, the board did not receive any public comment on the proposed changes. Today's meeting provides the second opportunity for public comment required under the board's procedures. Staff made no changes to the documents after they were released for public comment on June 3rd. I am available for questions.
Board members, are there any questions for Andrea? Okay, then with that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans.
Go for it.
I move to adopt the changes to the board's operational performance framework and audit and compliance questionnaire follow-up matrix as found in the board materials and presented today, and direct staff to make necessary changes to other relevant documents to reflect the board's action at this meeting.
Second, this is Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. With that, Aaron, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much, Andrea. All right, moving on. Agenda item M, Board President Approval of Voluntary Surrender Agreements. Ashley, I believe you're up.
Thank you. President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. In front of you for consideration is to approve allowing the board president to sign voluntary surrender agreements without the agreement being brought before the entire board for approval. A voluntary surrender agreement is offered to charter holders when a charter holder has decided to close its charter schools, such that a surrender of its charter contract is necessary. A voluntary surrender does not include surrenders or terminations that occur due to the board taking disciplinary action against a charter. Currently, voluntary surrender agreements are considered by the board during a regular board meeting, and the item is placed on the consent agenda. With this proposed change, the president may deny the request to sign a surrender agreement and place the agreement on an agenda for the full board's consideration. I will include a report to the board during regular board meetings as to which surrender agreements have been approved by the board president. Allowing the board president to sign surrender agreements will expedite the process and will allow for a more streamlined closure process for the board and the charter holder. And with that, President Lee, I'm available for questions.
Yeah, I just a comment, Ashley. I'm excited for this change. You know, I'm hoping it gets passed. Mainly, the biggest thing is over the summer when we don't meet and the charters come, and sometimes they're making decisions in June, July, right? Due to enrollment, due to a lot of different reasons. And so this has always been something where then we'd have to meet to have a special meeting for something that typically goes on the consent agenda. So thank you for working on this. And with that, are there board members? Are there any questions or comments for Ashley?
Chair Lee, this is Board Member Stratton. I think this is a great idea. It makes perfect sense. And I think I heard Ashley address my one comment that I had or question was that, you know, would the board get a report of the charters that were being surrendered? As long as that's the case and we're timely notified of, you know, kind of what's going on there, I support this 100%.
President Lee and Member Stratton, as I presented earlier today on the requests that have been approved under the AOI amendment request, I will also provide an update to the board at regular board meetings with the surrender agreements that have been signed by the board president.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. If there's no other comments, then is there a motion?
President Lee, I move to authorize the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools president to execute voluntary surrender agreements on behalf of the board without the agreement being brought before the entire board for approval. I direct staff to report to the board during regular board meetings those surrender agreements that have been approved by the board president since the last board meeting.
Is there a second?
This is Board Member Wood, and I second it.
Thank you, Member Wood. With that, Aaron, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on. Agenda item N, the FY 2023 ASBCS budget request. Ashley.
Thank you, President Lee. Included in the board materials today are the FY23 funding issues, which are the board's requests for additional appropriations in future years, and the annual ASBCS report, which includes board performance measures. These are required portions of the board's FY 2023 budget submission that is required to be submitted each year. In addition to these board materials, I will be submitting a budget for the board that includes FY 21, 22, 23, and our future plans for the budget in the future. Because the legislature ended at such a late date this year, many of that documentation and forms that I would need to use to submit for your consideration today is not available. But please know that the board staff will put together documentation based on JLBC reports and OSPB findings and guidance with those budget documents. So I will go ahead and submit that later this month, but that is not up for board consideration today. What is up for board consideration today is really those funding issues and that ASBCS report. I will first go over the ASBCS report, which includes the board's performance metrics. I will briefly outline the board's budget for this current fiscal year 2022, and will then turn it over to Serena to discuss the board's request for additional appropriations. As for the performance metrics for ASBCS, last year the board sponsored 545 charter schools. Staff conducted 145 reviews via desk review. This includes first year, second year, interval reviews, and renewals. This upcoming year, board staff actually plans to conduct 190 reviews. So we are going to continue to increase the amount of reviews that we conduct for our schools. Last year, the board completed 14 targeted visits, and the A team processed nearly 668 amendments that were not related to expansion requests, and processed 45 expansion amendment requests. Board staff reviewed 411 annual audits, and the board issued 1 notice of intent to revoke, 3 charters were surrendered under duress, and 4 charters voluntarily surrendered their charter contract. 12 charters were put on consent agreements, and board staff processed 330 student records requests and 190 complaints. Board staff has reported that we intend to conduct more visits, as I had mentioned previously, and process more expansion requests. Any questions or comments on the ASBCS report for performance?
Board members, any questions?
Okay. Just in general for the board's FY22 budget, the board received in total $2,103,000 and was allocated 24 FTEs. Currently, the board has filled 17 of its positions and looks to fill 3 more this current year, bringing the office to a total of 20 employees. In doing so, the board will roughly spend $1,650,000 on personal services and ERE, leaving around $550,000 for other operating expenses, including rent, equipment, legal fees, travel, professional development, and contracted services. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Serena to present to the board its request for additional appropriations.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Stop me at any point if you have any questions, board members. So I'm going to go over our 2023 budget requests. High level, so right now we will be requesting ongoing funding for the new IT system, for funding for 2 dedicated assistant attorneys general assigned to the board, an increase in funding for the purpose of contracting with third-party auditors to assist board staff in reviewing complex complaints and charter financial information, and then additional funding to fully fund the board's 24 FTEs and increase support and opportunities for existing staff. So with the IT system request, as you know, last year or over this last session, the board got approved a one-time appropriation to go out for bid to get a new IT system to support all of our work. And so as part of that request, we were essentially in talks with the legislature for the next year to have the ongoing appropriation to continue to support implementation and any ongoing costs associated with the IT system. So in the request, we don't have an official number yet because we don't have a vendor selected. That process is underway. And once we are able to lock down a vendor and get those official numbers, it will be updated and the board will be updated as well. The next request is for 2 fully funded assistant attorneys general. So right now we have Vicki Bergen, who is we partially fund her for part-time work. So we have kind of 2 buckets that we've identified in the request that we need assistance with. So first is day-to-day legal operations assistance. That would be assistance with reviewing complaints, with any proposed changes to Arizona Administrative Code, any questions that come from board members or board staff regarding legal compliance with documentation, any school policies that are brought to our attention, things like that. Review of any official guidance that we are posting or sending out among staff or to our schools, as well as training for staff on any legal requirements that the board is required to uphold. The next bucket is counsel needed for legal proceedings such as hearings and other legal matters through revocation or otherwise. So revocation hearings, as you know, when a charter is revoked by the board, there's a process through the Office of Administrative Hearings that we need legal assistance during. Any other hearings and discussions with counsel related to board decisions. So anytime, the board needs to go into executive session. Review of any approved consent agreements by the board to ensure that they are appropriate, as well as any legal assistance during the board meetings to ensure proper compliance with open meeting law. And so we will be requesting an appropriation to fully fund 2 full-time assistant attorney generals. So it gives us a lot more help and the ability to continue increasing our transparency and accountability work with our charters and make sure that we are protecting ourselves as a board and implementing things properly to avoid any kind of legal questions in the future as well. Any questions on the Assistant Attorney General section?
No, just a quick comment is I'm just really excited for that particular ask, really for all of them. All of them are really important, but I just think it's so needed. And I'm really hoping that that one gets passed. I know we love Vicki, and I hope we get her and all of her time instead of just a little bit of her time. And so I think it's much needed and really excited about it. So thank you guys.
And if I can echo Mary Ellen's comment, when I found out, not only is Vicki amazing, but when I found out how far spread she was with not only working with us and our needs, but 2 other groups, I was just shocked. I don't know how she handles it and handles it so well and with so much grace. So I too hope that we're able to acquire Vicki. However, I just applaud staff for recognizing the needs of this board, being unique as they are, and seeking out additional support for us and for the staff. So thank you for that.
So the next section is going to be a little bit similar in that we are requesting an increased appropriation for the board to contract out with third-party financial experts to review financial information. So again, kind of 2 buckets. The first being the increased financial review with the financial performance framework. As you know, we have intervention in different tiers, and that all requires a certain level of review by our staff. And then the second being that we do receive a large number of financially related complaints every year for our charters. And so when we get those complaints, we do have our staff member who reviews complaints, but she is unable to review all of those properly and as necessary due to the financial requirements in the complaints. And so they always go over to Andrea. And so Andrea is the one responsible for essentially reviewing all of this information, and it can lead, all the different complaints can lead down different roads, different kinds of finances to look at, different documentation. And so it is very time consuming. The third is whenever we are suspecting gross mismanagement of funds for one of our charters, which, as you know, the last case of that was in 2017. And a full financial review as required when we suspect gross mismanagement of funds can take anywhere from 4 to 10 weeks. And so our staff is in need of assistance from an expert to help us get through those reviews, do them properly. And so one of the options that we had discussed among staff was potentially asking for an appropriation for an assistant auditor general from the Auditor General's office. However, that office typically does not deal with charter schools. And unlike the legal requirements, as I just noted in the Assistant Attorney General appropriation, the financial requirements are kind of all over the place as far as when they come in, how in-depth of a review we need it, how much time it's going to take. And so it's not as consistent. And so we concluded that the best option would be an appropriation to allow the board to contract with third-party financial advisors, whether that be an auditor or an analyst, et cetera, to fit whatever situation arises, assuming that it does. And then to do it most efficiently is to contract out rather than having someone from the Assistant Auditor's General office for the full year. So it would be the most financially sound way to do this. So we figured out the appropriation just based on previous third-party financial contracts that we have had, and finding out exactly how many complaints that we've gotten over the years and how often these issues have arisen. So the next and final request is board staff support. First, in FY21, the board was approved for 21 full-time equivalency positions, so 24 full-time positions that needed to be filled. However, when we were approved for that additional, it went from 19 to 24. And when we were approved for the additional 5 FTEs, the personal services appropriation for salary was increased. However, the ERE, which is employee-related expenses, appropriation was not increased. And so unfortunately, we have not had the full amount needed to staff all 24 positions. And so right now we are attempting to hire at least 3 more positions, but once we hit 20 FTEs, we really won't have any wiggle room as far as personal services and ERE goes. So we are requesting, based on a funding formula, for the additional ERE for those positions to get them fully staffed. And then kind of the next level of that is that we are going to be requesting additional appropriations to increase staff salaries. And then that increase is applied to the ERE request for the full 5 unfilled positions. And so, as you all know, our board staff has seen a pretty high increase in their workload over the years, with more site visits, more complaints to process. Our site visit process has gotten significantly more in depth. All our work for school support. And so we, through our discussions, have looked at other agencies, both in Arizona and then other charter authorizers in other states, and figured out kind of a general average salary that we believe our staff is deserving of, and have put that all together into this appropriation.
I just want to comment on this one. I think that, you know, what you guys do as a board staff is absolutely incredible. The fact that you've done it with 19 people, the fact that you've done it with less than 19 people, I think is just outstanding. Because one thing I do know about the board staff is that you guys are not just maintaining, but constantly improving processes, constantly asking what you can do to make it easier for the charter community. And I don't know that all board staff does that. And so to say that this one is deserving is an understatement. And so, you know, fingers and toes crossed that this gets approved in the budget, because you guys are really important to us, and the and to not have movement from these positions is really important, and can really, once you guys establish a relationship with a charter, which you guys do, it's at the detriment to our charters if you guys have to leave to find work elsewhere because, you know, because you're not being paid comparable to what you'd be getting paid otherwise. So anyway, so just thanks for all you guys do, and fingers and toes crossed on this one for you guys.
Thank you.
Here, and thank you to Serena for presenting that so eloquently. You definitely had a challenging report to give us today. Asks like that are never easy. And so I just want to applaud your grace and applaud your courage in coming before us and doing that report for us today. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And I would also like to say that I support, you know, these increases. It's important to, I think, go on the record as saying, you know, in order for us to fully exercise our you know, compliance mandate and accountability mandates, we need to have the resources, and that, you know, the board can only do so much, and we rely heavily on staff, exclusively on staff. And so I think it's critical that we get these budget increases, not only for staff, but also for increased legal, and particularly of interest to me is the financial consultant, because if we are receiving complaints, in order for us to do our statutory mandated duty, we need to be able to have the professional expertise to bring to bear to do that. And so thank you to staff for all you do. And thank you for putting together this much needed appropriations request. Thank you.
President Lee, it's Carol Crockett. I just want to echo the comments made by Member Rice and Member Stratton. And while this isn't a time probably to discuss this formally, I hope that in the future, the board would consider an interest in providing adequate space for staff, because I think with the addition of personnel and we're returning to the office, I think it's important that staff also is accommodated with decent space. So just a comment.
Ashley, are you allowed to respond to that comment about additional space or not right now?
So I can, President Lee and Member Crockett, board staff has been having conversation with the State Board of Education along with members at ADOA, and we are included in a statewide space reduction, and I think that's a wrong name, but the state is working on reducing space for their agencies, and we are part of that process. Currently, what we're looking to do is move our offices over to the executive tower, and we would be situated on the 3rd floor with the State Board of Education, and we would potentially utilizing that shared space with them, but be able to really work with them, collaborate, and have really meaningful partnerships with the State Board of Education, along with reducing some of our space for our staff. Staff has and will continue to be on the road visiting charters and having a space that is more accustomed to staff being in and out of the office is going to be better. So we are looking somewhat to reduce our footprint, but we are looking also to improve our office space by moving to the executive tower as well.
Thank you, Ashley.
I'm sorry, President Lee, just to add to that, if there is a need for additional appropriations, we will work through the governor's office and JLBC and I believe ADOA to put together a joint request. That's my understanding of that process at this time.
Great, thank you.
President Lee.
Go for it.
Again, just echoing that I like how serious staff is taking their job of monitoring charter schools, and we're in an incredibly, again, a growth period, and we have a lot to do, and we've got a lot of things that are going to come up on our plate that deal with the compliance and the financial side. So I totally agree, and I agree with the staffing requests and the raise as well, the additional funding for salaries. I would like to add, as I asked Ashley this, there is nothing in there for the executive director position as well, and I think maybe we should try to help with that.
Thank you, Member Swanson. Okay, any other comments, board members? If not, then is there a motion to approve?
President Lee, this is Hans. I'm ready to make a motion. I do want to follow up on Board Member Swanson's comment. We should take a look at that, the salary for the executive director when possible. And I also want to comment that the staff altogether, given the resources that they've had, has done an extraordinary job. So I really want to thank them. So I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve the board's proposed fiscal year 2023 budget request for additional appropriations found in the board materials and presented today. Because not all necessary documents were available to complete the budget request prior to this board meeting, the board authorizes board staff to submit the budget submission reflecting appropriations, anticipated revenues, expenditures, and any other information required.
Second.
Seconds, Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. With that, Aaron, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Stratton, Mr. Stratton, Mr. Swanson, Ms. Wood,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay. Item O, summary of current events. Ashley, what do you got for us?
The only thing I have to update you all on is that the next board meeting is September 13th. To be completely transparent, I am going to try my hardest to make that an in-person meeting. That's what we're going to work towards, but I'll make sure to keep everyone updated, keep the board members updated and the public as to how that will be conducted.
Okay, great. All right. Then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.